good. I wish I could be anywhere else, but here I am. Look like it.
That was. I was sending little signals and you were just so intense.
Plus, we just broke ground on Shaw, and that was only phase one, we have plans for phase two right after that. So, over 136 units. With plans for more, so.
Where's Kelly?
Plus, that kid is from this post. It's the housing there. Dishwasher.
Oh, Lori.
That's supposed to be
Lori said there
expanded,
was
they have
2
plans on
somewhere.
the books for expanding.
Lori's brother was.
They're supposed to build a whole new, take that old one down and put a 3-story new one there, yeah. I don't know what the delay is, if it's just permitting or.
Gus.
Oh, great.
Good, I'm just in a strata meeting right now, can I call you? Yeah. So I'm calling our meeting to order at 3:01. This is a special meeting of council for March 28th, 2023. And we're honored to gather on the traditional territories of the Skokomish Nation. Our first item is to approve the agenda. I think that's straightforward, no changes, right? Yeah, Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Lumley. All those in favor? The motion carries to approve the agenda. Now we have 4 sets of minutes to adopt. They've all been updated, correct? With the okay, yeah, they've updated with the change to that motion that was missed before, right? Includes BC Transit, yeah. Okay, great. So we could have a motion then for all 4 to be adopted. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? That motion carries. And councillor reports are there as written. Thank you to Councillor Kroll for submitting the report, and Youth Representative Colton Rockford. Are there any questions on the reports? I don't think there's. I tried to explain everything that's going on at the SCRD. There's a waste composition. There's waste composition data here too for that focus zeroes in on the town of Gibsons. That full report for the whole Sunshine Coast is available at that meeting agenda package. So those are the councillor reports. Just going back here. Well, I can use my paper here. Committee reports. We have the Committee of the Whole meeting March 7th, 2023. There were 2 recommendations coming out of that meeting. One being that the annual allocation for future policing costs be increased by 5% to a total allocation of 10% per year. And we'll just need a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. This is an item we already discussed extensively in committee, but I will ask if there's any more discussion on this. No. So all those in favor? The motion carries. Second recommendation from that meeting is permissive property tax exemption, policy 2.8 review, that the policy 2.8 permissive property tax exemption application form be amended as follows. Revise question D3 to explain how your organization is helping the community create resilience to climate change, and add new question D4. How is your organization currently contributing or making plans to support housing and or homelessness in the town of Gibsons? We need a moved by Councillor Lumley, seconded by Councillor Kroll. Any discussion, further discussion on that motion? All those in favor? The motion carries. So yeah, sorry, I think staff is noticing, thank you, that Councillor DeAndrade, we can't actually see you. So you can hear me still, right? I'm just getting used to just running along here with the people in the room. No, I guess Councillor DeAndrade is still working on technical issues. Hopefully when she does get back, she'll speak up in case we still can't see her. So the next, we have Committee of the Whole meeting, March 14th, 2023. And a recommendation from that meeting is regarding the Aquifer Mapping Study Update Implementation Strategy, that the policies in Section 6.5 of the Official Community Plan Bylaw 985, 2005, protecting the aquifer be updated to include recommendations of the 2021 Aquifer Mapping Study Update to further minimize risk to the aquifer, and that the Town of Gibson's bylaws associated with aquifer protection be updated to align with policy updates. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Lumley. Any further discussion of this recommendation? All those in favor? The motion carries. And then there is a recommendation regarding General Services Preliminary 5-year Capital Plan for 2023 to 2027, that $122,260 in local government climate action program funding from the provincial government be committed to the carbon neutral plan for corporate operations and the urban forest strategy, and that the dog park fencing consultation and construction project in the amount of $25,000 be postponed to 2024, and further that the following projects be removed from the general capital projects budget: homelessness support, $20,000, joint field study, $8,000. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any further discussion? All those in favor? The motion carries. Growing Communities Grant, and that recommendation is that the centrifuge replacement project in the amount of $950,000 be funded by the Growing Communities Fund, and that Prowse Road to WWTP force main replacement in the amount of $915,000 be postponed to 2024. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Lumley. Might have something here. So all those in favor? Oh, Councillor DeAndrade is here. Yeah, in favor. Thank you. The motion carries. And I just want to make sure. Yeah. Committee of the Whole meeting, March 21st, 2023. We have a lot of committee meetings we're catching up on here because it's budget time. The recommendation from this meeting was that the grants of assistant budget be reduced to $10,000 per year on an ongoing basis, and that the police victim services and restorative justice budget be reduced to zero and that funding be pursued elsewhere, and that the tourism budget be reduced to $2,000 on an ongoing basis, and that the 2023 annual tax rates be prepared, authorizing an overall 6.5% tax increase, and further that the 2023 to 2027 financial plan bylaw and the 2023 annual tax rate bylaw be prepared for council approval. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? Oh yeah, all those, the motion carries. Yeah, okay. And now we're on to our administration reports. Director of Finance and Director of Infrastructure Services have a final budget presentation for 2023.
Thank you, Mayor. And so, there we go. Just give her a second. Good. Thank you, Amanda. And so we're going to provide a really high-level overview of the operations and capital budgets for 2023. Is that one?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Just give us a moment, sorry. Right, all right, thank you. Okay, so high-level overview. So the budget process started last fall with the development and update of departmental work plans. And then that was followed up by a budget survey that was held in January, community survey. The council also held a strategic priorities community engagement session in January. And then the committee of the whole meetings where the discussions happens also began in January. And so there were water and sewer long-term financial plan updates, preliminary water and sewer operational and capital budgets were also discussed. Preliminary general operational and capital budgets were also discussed after that. And then discussions on future policing costs and the tax burden analysis were also items in those meetings. Final direction from council just came just shortly a moment ago with your resolution to direct me to prepare the bylaws. And then this is the final budget presentation. And so this is all leading up to the financial plan and the annual tax bylaws being required to be adopted by May 15th as per legislation. Okay, I'll start with the water operations budget. And so for water operations, revenue is budgeted to be almost $2.4 million or $2.2 million. This is made up of parcel taxes, user fees, and we also have some other recoveries as well. Expenses are just over $1.7 million. And that leaves $470,000 available for capital projects or any amounts that aren't required or transferred to reserves. In this case, we're going to be using the whole 470 in the 2023 capital program. And as part of those discussions, council also authorized a 5% increase to parcel taxes and user fees. And this is as per the long-term financial plan that was presented in January. And this is a plan that was developed for water. It was back in 2014. And really the idea is to reduce our reliance on debt funding as well as external grant funding. And we've come a long way over the last 9 years. We've been doing significant progress with that. On the right-hand side, there is the chart that shows the breakdown of expenses. And so the largest area is the transmission and distribution. 36% of water operation expenses get focused on that area. Administration is the next one, and it is really, the bulk of that is a transfer from the water fund over to the general fund, and that basically pays the general fund back for items that the general fund provides to water operations. So it would be any wages and salaries that aren't coded to water directly, or more things like, legal, accounting, office supplies, that kind of thing. So it's more general administration nature. So that's the bulk of that piece. Then we have fiscal, and that is debt servicing and transfers to reserves. Wells and reservoirs at 15%, and then there's water meters and SCADA at 4% and 1%. Moving on to sewer. And so for sewer, revenue very similar, $2.2 million is projected. Same sources, taxes, user fees, reserves, and other recoveries. Expenses of just over $2 million for 2023. And available for capital projects is a remainder, and that's $245,000. And this year we're using about $201,000 of that, and then the remainder will go into reserves for future use. Similar, same tax increase or rate increase was approved for the sewer operations, so 5%, and that's for parcel taxes and user fees. And the sewer fund also has a long-term financial plan. This one was started in 2017, so a couple years behind the water fund, and we're making significant progress there as well. Same goal is to really reduce our reliance on grant funding and debt funding if we can. Still a ways to go though, and it really is about getting our rates up to being able to pay for the things we need without having to rely on those external funding sources as much. On the right-hand side, there's the expense breakdown. So for this one, the largest piece of sewer operations is the treatment of sewer, and that's 39% of expenses. Collection is just behind that at 23%. And then we have 20% for the administration. That again is an internal transfer between sewer, paying the general fund for some of the support is provided by the general fund. Fiscal's at 13, and then we also have flushing and SCADA. Moving on to general operations, this is our largest fund. Revenue and funding is projected, budgeted to be just over $8.7 million. And as you can see, the largest piece of that is the general revenue at 64%. And of that 64%, the largest part of that is property tax revenue, and that's coming in at 3.9 million. And so general revenue in total is 5.6 million. So of that, property tax is 3.9. Also in that one section is garbage and user fees. That's about $530,000. Interest income is another one, and that's larger this year, about $300,000, and that's reflecting the higher interest rates that we're seeing in the environment right now. And then also in this section is the general side of that admin recovery, so the costs that sewer and water are incurring to get general operations support are being recognized as revenue on this side, so that's the other side, the internal transfer. Grants and flow-through funding at 11%, and that one, the grants, the large grant in there is a small communities grant, so that's an unrestricted grant that we received from the province because we're a small community, and that's just over $500,000. And then gas tax is also in there, and that's about $270,000. And then in that section, I make a mention of flow-through funding, and that's a recognition that the town receives flow-through funding, that the Gibsons Public Market, every year they have a capital fundraising campaign that flows through the town, but then there's also a payment right to the market as well, so it's basically in and out, but it's recorded through our books because we're part owners of that property. Infrastructure at 8%, and then planning at 6%, rental income 4% for there, other transfers reserves at 4%, and then ICBC brings in 4% or 3% of our income. General operations on the expense side, so budgeted to be just over $8.5 million. And on this side, so we have the largest one is general government, that's 33%. Infrastructure services at 25%. Fiscal at 16%, and again, fiscal is debt servicing and transfers to reserves. Parks and culture at 11%. Planning at 7%, and then protective services, that's building and inspection and bylaw enforcement, and then ICBC as well, 3% of our expenditures on that side. And so overall, as council just approved, directed to have an overall tax increase of 6.5%. And so the bulk of that 5% is for the future policing costs. And so now that's going to be a transfer of 10% of property taxation per year, so close to $390,000 per year. And that's annually, it's going to be going towards future policing costs. And really that's a significant investment now that's being placed to reduce that impact of when the town does have a change in how we have to pay for policing once we reach the 5,000 population mark. So right now with this additional 5%, the gap that we're projecting is about 20% of taxation, but we still have 3 more years to the next census, so still time to try and bridge that gap. So a really good change made this year for that perspective. And then the remaining 1.5% is taxation to support capital projects. And so the effect on this 6.5 on municipal taxes. So I've shown you here the average residential and commercial properties. So for the average residential property, and right now that's valued at just over $921,000. This 6.5 would equate to an additional $63.38. And so the average residential assessment went up by 13%. So an individual property, depending on how this 6.5 affects you, would depend on what your value of your property is and how much it changed from last year compared to the average of 13. So if your property went up by more than 13%, you could expect to pay a bit more. If your property increased only, say, by 5%, then you could expect to pay a bit less. And this is specifically on the Gibsons taxation and the assessment-based portion of the taxation. And so from the commercial property side, the 6.5 translates for a property valued at $1.3 million, an additional 332. And these are based on the revised roll, those averages, and, the completed roll. I'm getting the updated revised roll in the next couple of days, and so we'll get final numbers for that. And that is the operational part, and I'm gonna, unless there's any questions, I'm gonna pass it over to Trevor, who will deal with the capital part.
Let's see if there are, take this opportunity to see if there are any questions on that first part of the presentation, including from Councillor DeAndrade. We don't see you, but speak up.
Thank you, Mayor. No.
Okay. Let's move on to the capital portion then.
Thank you, Mayor. The capital project funding is a total of $9.2 million worth of projects that was approved by committee. That is across the water, sanitary sewer, and general funds. The breakdown of costs is provided above. As you'll see, roughly 50% of the funding for the capital project program for 2023 is from external sources, being a combination of grants and gas tax, which provides us a significant benefit to the town to be able to complete our capital project program. The projects in the water fund can generally be described as efforts to improve and maintain our sustainable water supply source. And that's through the expansion of our groundwater supply network with the construction of the pump or the treatment facility and distribution facility at Well 6 in Upper Gibsons, as well as some other projects, including improvements to the Well 3 pump house facility and a network of additional aquifer monitoring wells in Lower Gibsons, as well as responsible asset management through the replacement of some aging infrastructure through a water main replacement project, which is currently underway, as well as a seismic assessment of the School Road Reservoir. For the sanitary sewer budget, our fund, there's approximately $1.8 million worth of projects on the books for 2023. That includes the replacement of the centrifuge. There's been so much discussion about it over the months. I thought you'd all have an opportunity to have a look at it. That project was, as mentioned previously in this meeting, supported for funding through the Growing Communities Fund grant program, which saves significant time on replacing this aging unit, which is key to the treatment process at the plant and allows for efficient treatment of the wastewater and the solids. As well as that project, some significant projects which we have on the books for 2023 are the purchase of an emergency diesel pump, which could be used to pump wastewater from the Prowse Road lift station up to the treatment plant in the event of a major failure of power or at other places in the distribution system, as well as a strategic plan update, which is carried over from 2022, and this will provide some long-term planning for the sanitary sewer system. And finally, in the general service fund, there's a total budget of $5.2 million roughly. That includes a combination of natural asset projects, active transportation work, parks and facility improvements, and administrative projects. The largest of which is the White Tower Park Pond project, which is in the background of the picture on your left, is the White Tower Park Pond site. We're anticipating that work on that project will begin in June or July of this year. That photo also shows a weather station, which was recently installed, and that's part of the information gathering to support our knowledge of the aquifer and interaction with the stormwater and natural environment above ground. Some of the park facility improvements include the Pioneer Park washroom, also known as the Five Corners, as well as the restoration of Pebbles Beach access, which has been determined to be in a condition that would not necessarily be safe for use. So I believe that there's signage up indicating it's to be used only at the people's own risk. The intention would be to stabilize the bank and replace the stairs with a new structure, and currently that's with geotechnical engineering design at this moment. And on the administrative project side, there's an update to the official community plan for $110,000. I believe that's all we have, so if there are any questions, that would be high time.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Okay, Councillor Thompson?
That's a great summary, thank you. Is this all going to be posted on our website, this information? Yeah, it's fabulous. Thanks.
Yeah, that was a excellent summary and well presented too. I like the visuals of it too. So it's great work by the whole team here. CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just one other comment that I want to, behind the scenes, I believe, I understand from Trevor that we have, for this year, about 81 projects that we're divvying it up amongst our group to, so everybody gets some homework. And but part of it is making sure that, you know, we're learning from past years when we have that much volume of construction, that we're trying to sort of be proactive with some of the requirements like the engineering side and the archaeology and so on. We'll have some more information for the town, for council, I should say, sort of what's the plan to make this all happen as soon as we can. So.
Thank you. And seeing that this is the public presentation of our budget, we'll allow any questions from the audience on this presentation too. If anyone has any questions on what they saw, not sure this is what you're here for. People never show up for the budget, so it's only the most important thing we do all year. That's all.
I actually was going to ask if the assessments that are being used to calculate the tax, the new tax increase, are they going to be going back from July of last year?
That would be yes for this year. Yeah. That the July assessments or July 2022 assessments apply for 2023 taxation. Yeah.
So with the policing, once we reach 5,000, what will the benefit be? Will there be more grants? Population reaches 5,000?
No, we just end up paying for 70%. It's pretty arbitrary. We end up going from paying for 30% to 70% of policing costs when any community hits 5,000. And yeah. We will get access to speeding tickets, traffic fines as grants. So the more people in our community get traffic fines, that's good for us. But that's something we don't get now that we will get later. That's true. Any other questions? Okay. So now we have a recommendation from our Director of Finance regarding the parcel tax roll review panel and water, sewer, community recreation parcel taxes. And that's that. I'll ask first, could it be at 6:45 or we just hope? Okay.
Certainly, if you prefer that.
Usually these take like
just don't want to jinx things. But
3 minutes?
Yeah, no, they can be quite quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just say that the recommendation is that council convene a parcel tax roll review panel to be held at 6:45 p.m. on Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023, and that all members of council be appointed to sit as members on the parcel tax roll review panel. And if I'll see if there's you get a motion, a seconder first, moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Lumley. Does anyone need an explanation of a brief one? Yeah, it's usually nothing really comes up in these. It's it just pertains to kind of new properties or newly subdivided properties. And it's a process that councils need to go through every year. Any discussion? All those in favor? The motion carries. And now we have a planning report on development variance permit for side setback relaxation and form and character development permit for a proposed 33-unit residential building at 715 Corlett Road.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be presenting for Katie because she is in Australia right now. Oops. Okay, so the property is located between Corlett Road and School Road. There's an existing 6-unit townhouse complex on the north side of the property, which is accessed from Corlett Road. The proposal is to develop the vacant south portion of the property, and it will be accessed from School Road. The property neighbors a 3-story residential apartment building to the east and the town's park yard to the west. The property has 2 zones. It's a split-zoned property with multifamily residential 1 on the north portion where the townhouses are, and multifamily residential 2 on the south portion. Both the RM1 and the RM2 zones allow townhouse and apartment use, except density for apartment use is higher in the RM2 zone, which is on the southern vacant portion. So the proposal is to develop 33 residential units on the vacant south portion of the property, which is accessed off School Road. So right now the address is 715 Corlett, but once built, it will have a School Road address. Oops. So there is a variance request with this application. The setback for the building is 4.5 meters for an interior lot line setback. But what they're asking for is a 0 meter or 0.05 meter from the east property line setback, because they're, what's shown in this picture here is the stairway access to the units, but also that covers the underground or underbuilding parkade. So the area outlined in orange is proposed to be constructed within the setback, and this does require a variance. So the variance request is to reduce the interior side setback on the east side from 4.5 meters to 0 meters to allow the construction of a staircase and pathway attached to the building. And the rationale is to provide ground level access to the building and to cover the underground parking. The upper portion of that building will meet the 4.5 meter setback. So the retaining wall along the east property line will be 1.5 meters above grade at its highest point and will taper off as the natural grade rises towards the rear of the lot. This rendering has been updated to the one in the staff report, which shows the staircase being elongated to ensure that the neighboring property is not faced with a substantial wall at the property line. The left-hand section of the staircase will be a maximum of 2.35 meters high. This is the exterior wall of the underground parkade. So that shows the elongated staircase walking up to the rear as the grade increases to the back. So the property falls under DPA number 4. The development permit guidelines aim to ensure that new development is appropriate to its surroundings and is compatible with surrounding uses or neighboring character, and to ensure that residential development is attractive for future residents. The full staff analysis of the guidelines are on pages 9 to 14 of the staff report, and this provides a very high-level summary. Showing that 36 of the 46 guidelines are clearly met through the staff analysis. 5 out of the 46 were not, and 5 out of the 46 were partially met. So this was brought to the ADP, and the ADP, so they met on February 1st and looked specifically at the form and character. And they passed a recommendation to council that says the ADP recommends form and character development permit for 715 Corlett Road be issued, subject to an accessible route from the proposed new building to Corlett Road for pedestrians and cyclists. So there are 3 options in the staff report. One is to proceed with neighbor notification. And then once those comments are brought back, council can make the final decision. Option 2 is to ask the developers to revise the proposal and change a portion if that would sit better with council. And option 3 is to reject the variance and ask them to revise the proposal and meet that 4.5 meter side setback. And that's it for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just start with a question on the on that ADP recommendation regarding the a route for pedestrians and cyclists. What where is that at? Is that something, I mean, being a it's not a obviously not a council condition or anything at this point. So is it something that planning has explored with the owner, or?
Yes, we have explored it, and I'm going to see if I can show you what it looks like. Oh, I can't. Can I just get up and point to the? So the access off School Road, the intention of this is that there will be a route all the way around. This rendering, this is what the developers have proposed. The reason this is leveled up is they've said they could bring cyclists around. So that is supposed to be the accessible route. And the ADP wanted cyclists to access Upper Gibsons through Corlett, because they said realistically, people aren't going to want to bike up School Road. And Councillor Cole, you might want to add to that if there's anything.
I think you've captured that fairly well. If I may, Mayor White, just for clarification, the variance that's being requested is because where that stairwell and ramp is, if the ground level were higher, they wouldn't need the variance. It's only at the School Road end of the complex that's triggering that variance. Because it's covering underground parking, which is permitted to go to property lines, but because of the change in grade there, the parking garage wall becomes exposed.
Right, so the zoning allows a 1 meter height increase within a setback, but because this is 1.5 meters, it's actually, it goes far back. So what the variance is actually doing is looking for a 0 meter setback for that portion of the building. So we would include the proposed drawings to account for that.
There's no, there haven't been any visuals of what the property currently looks like. And when I drive by there, I notice that there's a fence on the that property line, I believe. Is that fence right on the property line, or is that set back on the other side? Do we know?
I don't know where it is in accordance with the property line.
Yeah, when I see the fence there, I'm not sure what the impact will be as long as there's a fence there anyway. Any other questions from council? The recommendation is, sorry? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
It's noted that there's specific elements that reduce a precedent being set in this situation with a 0 setback. Can you speak to that, or did we sort of cover that by the fact that it has to do with the underground parking that changes that corner?
I think the intention here is that because the building as a whole, the intention for the building is to meet that 4.5 meter setback. The portion, the small portion for the variance is just that lower portion of the building. That's where we're saying the intention is for underground parking to excavate less, and therefore it's not setting a precedent for buildings to be right up and have a 0 meter setback, because the majority of the building is going to meet that 4.5 meter side setback.
Melanie, do you have a question too?
Yeah, I know, like, I like going through like your evaluation of all the guidelines. The back portion, which meets the height of the building on the low side, then why would the one where the roof lines don't step down, why would that be important? If it's, do you know what I'm saying? No, like, if the height's fine on the low side, why is that, I just wondered why that is important to say no, that the roof line doesn't tear us down, like, the whole roof line may be going down the hill, but if it's at the right height, if there's at the low side, why is that even a consideration? I was just curious, that's all.
Is that specific to a guideline?
Yeah.
The DP guideline? Well, the terracing, I think the terracing guideline is so that to design buildings so that they're built into the slope.
Yeah.
Because this is a long, narrow property, they haven't terraced it. So I think the intention is to have that design, but I mean, you could look at this as the stairway is a little bit of a terrace.
Sure. And the other thing too is, like, I mean, as much as we have to look at a lot of things, I thought the balcony thing's a bit funny too. I mean, I guess we could update some of these things, but, I mean, having a maximum requirement for a balcony just seems kind of like outdated for me. Like, if somebody wants to build a unit with a 2 meter or a 1.5 meter deck on it, it just, it gets flagged as it doesn't meet the guidelines, but I don't know. I mean, seems kind of silly to me, but.
So that would be a DP4 update that we would need to, yeah. We've already got 3 DPA updates underway, but eventually we're updating the whole OCP, right? So, yeah. Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor White. Just more for clarification to Councillor Lumley's point, we did bring up at the ADP, if you look at the actual drawings that they've submitted, they've come up with a very complex roof design. So we flagged it at the ADP that they could have visually reduced the impact of the height of the building with a different roof style, but what they've come up with partially is to try and bring a little more architectural interest to the building because it is so long and narrow. But it's quite a complex roof design if you look at it in the roof plan.
Any other questions?
I have a question, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I see on figure 6 and 7 on page, sorry. Sorry, I cannot see the page now, but, sorry. There's some planters, I'm assuming is on the neighbor's property. So my question is, will this developer be responsible for building the planters and providing the trees and landscape in this part of the property? I mean, in the neighbor's property to
I'm not sure any of the drawings are really about the current, of the current landscape, are they? I think they're just kind of hypothetical. Well, I don't know what drawing you're looking at, but planning might.
Figure 6 and 7.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see figure 6 and 7. What they're proposing has to be on their own property, so they would be responsible for maintaining the landscaping and the planters on their property.
I understand, but I see planters. Could you clarify the planters that I'm seeing seems to be on the neighbor's property or no?
They're not, these aren't drawings of the neighbor's true property. These are just their drawings. They wouldn't be drawing anything.
The planters are located within the side yard setback. So the setback is 4.5 meters, but there's a retaining wall and planters, and that's all within the setback. So it would have to be on their property. They wouldn't be allowed to build on the neighbor's property without permission from the neighbors.
I understand, but when I see even the picture, let me see I think the first picture, this picture actually that is on the screen, you see the stairs and you see these planters on the side. Is this included in their property?
That lower retaining wall.
Yeah.
It should be free.
I'm just looking at the landscape plan, and they will have to put some planters on the front of their property. But yeah, whatever they're proposing has to be on their property.
Regardless of the drawings we're looking at, the request is a request. It's a setback of 0.5 meters, right? That's really, yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line here. It's not, they can't put planters on the other property, someone else's property.
Now, I understand. I thought perhaps the developer would have discussed. I think what I'm trying to understand, on the picture that is on the screen, there is the square, the orange square. So this is the variance. And then there's these planters on the side, on the right side. And I'm not sure if this is the neighbor's property or this is part of the landscape for this development.
If the planter, as shown here, with the trees on the right-hand side of the orange box,
Yes.
if those are planted, they have to be on their property.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? So the recommendation we have in front of us is that staff be directed to notify neighbors of the date council will consider issuance. I don't know how that works. Do we have to decide on a date here, or is there a date that's being suggested, or?
No, the date is probably going to be the April 18th, but we'll just confirm the council schedule.
Okay.
And then when we notify, we would put that date in the letter so that neighbors can show up to that meeting and be heard by council.
Okay. So we don't have to put the exact date in the motion, but we should really make sure we all know what it is, and our notices and agenda setting all match this time. So that staff be directed to notify neighbors of the date council will consider issuance of DVP 2023-01 to vary section 10.213 of zoning bylaw 1065/2005 to reduce the east interior side lot line setback to 0 meters for the construction of a staircase and pathway attached to the building. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded Councillor Thompson. Any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? The motion carries. And now item 6.4, which is issuance of batch 2 temporary use permits to allow non-principal residential guest accommodation. And there's a recommendation here that opportunity be provided for council to hear from those affected, which I usually just do as the mayor. Now, in this case, there was an official notice sent out that this would be This opportunity for those affected would be at 7 p.m. tonight. So because that went out publicly, we have to honor that. I do see people are here today, and it also says the meeting today, which was called for 3 p.m. So I'm open to hearing, starting to hear from people now, but we do have to wait until, so that we also have to have that opportunity at 7 p.m. for people to also come in and speak to this. Certainly, right now, I'll ask that anybody, I mean, I understand some people here want to speak to TUPs more generally, the RGA bylaw more generally. We've been allowing that in the past. We really do encourage people to speak address by address, and at 7 p.m. that's certainly how we'll be doing it. But I will allow people to speak this afternoon since there's a number of people here, and we'll
Speak
do.
on these units or speak on general topics of the STRs and.
I'll just check the will of council here. Are we good with our timing and stuff to just hear generally? Yeah.
So you're not gonna allow it tonight?
Oh, we have to tonight. It's announced for tonight. Yeah. But tonight it's going to be, it'll be specific by the address.
By the address?
Yeah.
So if you wanna speak just in general about.
Sure.
STRs now.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a bunch of people coming at 7 that want to speak generally.
Yeah,
Just want to speak
they've gone
generally
back and
too?
forth, they went from
I mean,
3 till 7 to 7 to
the
3.
notice was for these specific temporary use permits.
Okay, well, I've also heard murmurs that there are changes happening today, so I don't know if I wanna, waste my blood pressure on possible changes that are coming through, but I've heard this story before. So do I say my?
Well, I'll just, it's up to you. I mean, we'll allow people to speak at this point, but then we, we do need to go in camera to discuss some in-camera issues once that's done. We've got a motion to close.
Okay, well, obviously, every one of you know who I am. I have.
This is, go, yeah, we've got a mic here.
Sure.
That's fine, it's up there. You can speak from where you are. Yeah. But actually, you're broadcasting live online too, so you've got the whole world watching you. So you can introduce yourself. That would be helpful.
Scott Stevenson.
Okay.
Scotty's Rentals. Long story short, I've had my Airbnb for 11 years. Prior to Airbnb being a thing, I had a website. I had a garden suite. Really enjoyed it. Did it for a number of years, 5-star ratings all the way through. The new bylaws come in and I will not be allowed to rent my Airbnb anymore. And even if I could, the $3,500 fee is, I call it the Capone fee. It doesn't make sense for me to run it. It's 20% of my gross. Why do that? There's a lot of work. There's a lot more money that goes into an Airbnb than most people think. And my Airbnb wasn't one where there's a push code and just people go in. It was one where we introduced ourselves and told them about the community and showed them around, restaurants to go to, hikes to go on, so forth, and I really enjoyed it. I changed my life based on it. I've now encountered into another tourist-based business. So I'm not here representing my Airbnb. I'm not going to push through with that. I'm not paying the gangster fee. It doesn't make sense when someone's charging $600 a night and paying the same fee as I am for my $80 a night place. It just doesn't make sense. I have not found one thing on this bylaw that makes any sense at all. I've asked each and every one of you on the council, including the mayor, tell me one good thing that's come of this bylaw. Silence. Nothing. I could ask anyone in every department here. What one good thing has come from this bylaw? Not one thing. I could burn out 18 big pens writing down on paper how many bad things have come from this bylaw. It's separating the community. It's killing a long time, 10-year build, and I call it a wave of tourism that's coming to this town. It used to be called the bypass, where everyone went up the coast because there's no accommodations here. So I've been part of that wave, building accommodations, which allowed restaurants, the public market, tap works, all these other places to come out of the woodwork, to be able to afford to run their businesses 12 months of the year. So Now we have the bylaw, which is so filtered that the only people that seem to get through now are standalone buildings from people who own them from Vancouver, where there's no personal touch when they show up. It's just hotels being run from someone else. And for the people who helped grow the tourism for the last 10 years, that's like cutting them off by the knees, because all of those other ones don't make it through the filter. So when you guys said you wanted to get rid of the party houses, this was part of the plan when I spoke to every council member. This is, you want to get rid of people from Vancouver owning them. We don't want party houses disturbing neighborhoods. That's exactly the route you're going. That's what this bylaw has now pushed through. I've also talked to each and every one of you prior to the election with empty promises that this bylaw would be changed. We will draw it back, Dave Kroll. Your words exactly. Anne Marie, same thing. You will draw it back to make it work for this community and not cut us off all by the knee. And now I've got a tourist-based business. I don't know where everyone's going to stay. No one can stay here. The walkability score is gone. People are going to have to go up the coast. Or they won't come. People say they'll come for the day. No one's coming for the day with the ferries. So now my whole future is in doubt because the wave that I've seen coming for the last 10 years and changed my life in North Van to push forward for my forever home here is in complete doubt. I came home from a trip because I found out this is actually pushed through. It's not getting held off until you guys actually make some changes. And those were empty promises from each and every one of you. Pre-election, I voted for you based on those promises. And now I sit here frustrated with my hands tied behind my back, not being able to do anything. I believe we've come up with a few things. I've read through the bylaw 3 times. It never says one thing about building inspections, not one thing. Yet you're required to have a building inspection for an Airbnb. Not a safety inspection as it should be, a building inspection. Doesn't make sense. There's not one anywhere in the bylaw that says that. That's what's holding up all the people who made all these STRs in the last 10 years, which provided tourism to grow as it is. And so now we have a problem where they're cut off and everybody else is going to enjoy it. And not only that, they're going to be able to charge double, 3 times the amount because supply and demand isn't there. So now us locals, tax-paying locals, sit here and watch everyone else from the town, 80% I think has gone through, from people from Vancouver doing standalone houses. Exactly what we did not want. Frustrated? Beyond. I've never seen such a kerfuffle in my life. I don't know, is this politics? Is this how it works? I'm done. Like, I literally came back from the trip ready to sell my house, liquidate my business, and go somewhere where business is open. Because Gibson's business is not open. And it's the only growing economy we have. We don't have fishing, we don't have logging, we have tourism. And people want to come here and stay close by so they can walk to the restaurants, enjoy a nice beer, a drink. More restaurants are coming. How are they going to be supported when we don't have people, we don't have places for them to stay? The hotels are not worth staying in, and they're a walk away, like it's up School Hill. Lower Gibson should be tourist-based. And quite frankly, low-income housing or affordable housing, it can't be Lower Gibsons. It's not Yaletown, it's not Ambleside, it's not Lower Lonsdale. These are places that people want to go to be tourists. We don't allow hotels that George has been put off for, 15 years now. We won't allow construction here, development in that sense. So let the STRs be. Fix your affordable housing a different way. We have rentals popping up now. We have 60 that just came on the market. We have the 40 on School Road, and there's another go ahead for 40. That's more than all the STRs and Gibsons. Why are we crushing an economy that is the only growing economy in Gibsons? I hope to God, I pray, that I'm not just hearing lip service today again, that something's getting done. Because I'm up to my eyebrows on this. And I just pray to God you guys are going to use your sense. You're going to actually back up your promises and do something. Don't sit on your hands. Get to work. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Scott. Anyone else?
Can I just tell everybody what's happening with me?
Sure, yeah.
Do I have to stand up? So you guys all, I've talked to lots of you guys know I'm single mom on the coast. I own a house. I work very hard to get there. So this is 50% of my income that I've lost because I have a non-conforming suite. Okay, so faced with the choices of what to do moving forward and being able to stay in my home with my son, I looked at the options, and I talked to many of you a couple times, heard different things from everybody from day one. So in the end, turns out the cost of conforming for a 2-year temporary use permit for me is unaffordable, especially for things that I can't see. Like I won't be able to see the improvements in my home. So what I decided to do instead is move myself and my son into my beautiful 1-bedroom Airbnb and spend the money that I would have spent on conforming to get my upstairs ready. So in my case, first of all, you've screwed my life up huge, but you haven't fixed anything. I'm just adapting, right? I'm not renting into the market. But the tenant I had before I made these decisions, she cost me $5,000, right? So I just wanted everybody to know, now I'm putting myself in a financial situation where I'm scared. You know, my neighbor, my one neighbor that I might have a problem with, could say, nope, don't want her to do it. And then what? I gotta sell my home, and then I become the person you're trying to help. Right? Right? So I really hope you guys take an extra good look at this and make some positive changes. I agree with everything Scotty said. You know, we've got tons of servers that work in this community that are gonna like feel a huge hit from this, massive. So anyways, that's my piece.
Karen?
I don't think you're filming this, are you? No.
Everything's on.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a camera on the audience. I was actually sorry Councillor DeAndrade wanted a camera to be on the audience, but I don't think we can do that yet.
No.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll go sit here just because everybody else has. So our situation is, I know somebody somewhere got the impression that rent for short term is something like $600 a night, which would be lovely. It's not true. I think anybody could just simply go on Airbnb and look up what a suite would be. And mostly, Scotty was saying $80, we charge $160. So the idea of paying $3,500 and then being limited to 3 months, as well as $3,500. $3,500 is what we would, I would say, make in a good month, which sounds like, oh, well, that's double what regular rental would be for if we did long-term rental. So we're obviously gouging the marketplace and not allowing long-term rentals. But in reality, once you pay for a cleaner, once you pay for all the maintenance and other things that go along with it, and not to mention income tax, it is taxable after all, income. We're making not anywhere near that. And to then say $3,500 and only be able to do it for 3 months of the year when we've been doing it about 10 months of the year. It is also in not just our case, but in several other people's cases in the neighborhood that we've talked to, it's our only guest accommodation. We have a 2-bedroom house upstairs. Our 2nd bedroom's our office. My husband and I are both self-employed, so we use our 2nd bedroom fully as an office. When my kids come to visit, they come with my grandkids. And our suite is our only space that they could come and stay with us. Another lady I happen to know who's doing the same is in a 1-bedroom house above Armour's Beach and has a 1-bedroom cottage basically 10 feet away from her 1-bedroom house. And again, same idea. It's her only guest accommodation. So short-term rental allows us to block off times for our family and friends to come, for us to be able to travel in the winter. We take it off the market for a month if we're going away or if we just want to be alone. We don't want somebody underneath us all the time. So we can book it off as we need it for ourselves. So this is, and to suddenly come and completely change everything, we've been doing it for 5 years. And I've been a long-term landlord in the past. Right now, you're playing Russian roulette when you're a long-term landlord. You're hoping that, and most people are good tenants, but you're hoping that you keep your good tenants, because one bad tenant can cost tens of thousands of dollars. And with the regulations that are currently in place, anybody that has enough money to leave their house empty is leaving their house empty. And there is dozens and dozens of empty houses around here that people just, if they are well off enough, they leave their basements empty. So what you're talking to is people who, like myself, who've either become reliant on the income or who need the income, like you just heard, to keep her and her child in the home and not have to pay rent, right?
Yeah, which is more.
Which is more.
Yeah.
So you're talking to people that are sitting behind a gun almost, like you've got a gun to our heads. Because believe me, if we could afford to leave our basement empty and just have our family and friends, certainly that's what we would do. And that's what we did do for the first 3 years that we lived here. And then we got into the short-term rental just because it was sitting empty most of the time. Why not let, people come from all over the world and enjoy our place? We weren't gouging anybody. It was well within reason. We've had lots of workers from the mill, from the people building this house, the new building here, the guys who were putting the cinder block wall up, stayed at our place for a week while they were working on that. So we're accommodating workers that come here to build the community, because there isn't enough room in the hotels. The hotels are so poor. And then to say $3,500, I said, you could have raised it from $100 to $500 or $400. Nobody would say boo.
Yep.
But you go and $3,500, and then, oh, by the way, we're also going to take that and restrict it down to 3 months, which essentially is equivalent to a third of our income. Like 1 month worth of rent right there goes to pay for that. Oh, and by the way, you might have to spend $10,000 to get an architect to come out and do a building plan, or to do get a building permit. You need architectural drawings. You need to bring it up to current code. You have to put in, LinkedIn fire alarms, etc. We have that is unreasonable to, on the drop of a hat, change it all.
And you don't have to do it for long-term
Thanks.
rentals.
And you don't have to do it for long-term. You got freaking rat traps down on the waterfront, and I'm sorry to say that, but anybody walking past those long-term rental houses on the waterfront, covered in tarps, for as long as I've been here, 9 years, those roofs have been covered in tarps. And
Thanks.
and they don't have to get a building permit.
Yeah.
That is a shame. You're asking long-term tenants who have no choice to live in God knows what kind of conditions. But people who are reviewing us on like twice or 3 times a week,
This is a good point.
giving us 5 stars. Believe me, if we weren't having a proper accommodation, we would get 1-star reviews. And I can actually point out a castle, so-called, in Langdale that gets 1-star reviews. So believe me, you'll get bad reviews if you're not providing clean, comfortable, safe accommodation.
So we're not going
And we get
to,
reviewed all the time.
we're not going to engage in like a
Anyway.
discussion or debate, but I do just want to clarify one thing. I think that if anybody who's paying $3,500, I don't think is limited to 3 months. Like that would be a stream 1, is a 3 months limitation. $3,500 would be having to get a temporary use permit for a stream 2, which would be all year. So I just wanted to, I don't want to debate. I'm just like,
Well,
that's the fact. Yeah.
opposite of what they
Yeah.
tell us when we went.
Okay, well, that's
So
that's what the fact, so.
There are two, I just wanted a quick question. The 2 streams that are here are if it is part of your house and you're renting a room, that is $400 a year, and then $200 after that, and that is year round. And that's what we've been told. The other one, if it's a standalone suite, that is $2,000 a year, but it's $1,500 application fee, so the first year is $3,500, and that is 90 days. And that's not even consecutive, or that has to be consecutive.
No.
That is what we've been told by when we go in to apply.
When you come in physically here, because we've been trying to actually make the application, we've done it now twice.
I just want to see if anyone, maybe clarify that again then, because that's definitely not any of our not a single person in this room here has that understanding, so, yeah.
Walls in our house to reincorporate our suite into our house. So now it's all legal. Now it's like, oh, it's just part of your house. What is the friggin' difference other than we moved a wall? There is no difference. But now
Okay, I'm gonna have to close off. I mean,
I'm sorry,
I just, this
apologize
is,
for getting angry, but this
yeah,
is
I
really
mean,
upsetting.
we hear you. We hear from everybody here, and we do need to go in camera now, and we did
I just wanted one sentence.
one sentence, yeah.
To commend the town of Gibsons has, what I understand, we have 40 new units on School Road of assisted living units that was built in 2021. We have the Vantage Way project of 56 rental units that are coming on stream right now. And we have broken ground on Shaw Road for another 40 units in phase 1, with a phase 2 to come. So we have, this town of Gibsons has taken action, as we know that there is a shortage of rental housing. And I want to commend the town of Gibsons for creating that 136 rental accommodation units. And unfortunately, what you're trying to do to short-term rental isn't producing the results like you have already produced with the other projects, so.
Thank you for your input. Now we need a motion to close. Oh, sorry. Is there, do we need to do the presentation? I guess we'll do the presentation now, sure, yeah. Yeah, go ahead. I'm not used to the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, if I present now, then you have the information before you go in council, and I won't have to present twice, so, or in camera, sorry. Oh, sorry, I have to wake up my own computer again. All right. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the purpose of this report is to obtain council's direction on whether to issue each of the 11 temporary use permit requests in the second batch of applications for the Stream 2 whole unit residential guest accommodation. And I will confirm that Stream 2 includes year-round use of a whole home, but the 3 months only is under Stream 1. So the report shares written comments from neighbors and a framework that council may use to evaluate the applications in relation to RGA policy criteria and/or other priorities that council might have identified or identify. This map shows the locations of the 11 applications in Gibsons. Oh, this map. I've got it. The smaller map on the right shows the locations of the 22 TUP applications that were previously approved in December of last year. So following council's direction on March 7th, staff followed through with notifying neighbors and the community of the applications. This included a notice placed in the Coast Reporter running March 17th and March 24th, and just over 600 letters were sent to neighbors within 100 meters of properties requesting TUPs. In response, 21 submissions have been received. I believe this is up to, I think this is total, including 3 that were added after the close of the comment period. The comments are shared with council as attachment B to the report in addendum 1, also in addendum 1, which has comments to the close of the comment period and further updated to include all written comments received to date, I believe. Comments received during the comment period up to 8 a.m. yesterday, March 27th, are noted in the evaluation table in attachment A. So as previously shared, the RGA policy includes recommended, thank you, can you just do that? includes recommended criteria on which to evaluate the temporary use permit applications.
Councilor Crowell's going to choose.
Okay. The criteria are listed here in the left-hand column and include short-term rental history of the unit with priority to units with a known history of providing short-term guest accommodations and to those having the highest review ratings. Criteria 2, based on council and community input, the policy prioritizes units based on property location with priority to units in or near the harbor area and Lower Gibsons. The third criteria is history of bylaw complaints for each application, and the fourth and final criteria weighs feedback from neighbors. So based on the information we have about the properties, staff has used the framework and in the attachments to assign a point value between -3 and +3 points for each application based on the first 3 policy criteria. For each criteria, positive evaluations are shown in green, neutral evaluations in yellow, and negative evaluations per the criteria are shown in red. And I'll note a correction on this table, or that should be included on this table. In column 3, neighbor comments, 3 letters of support from neighbors were received in January with the applications for, it was 586 and 588 North Fletcher. And these were overlooked in the summary, and it's been brought to our attention. They've been provided to council, but they're not reflected in this report. These have been added to the agenda. For location, we see 3 of the applications. Those at 524 South Fletcher are located in the harbor area and shown in green. 7 are within walking distance, of Lower Gibson services, shown in yellow, and 2 are not in the harbor area or in the 400-meter walking distance, and these are shown in red. For known rental history and ratings, 7 applications, shown in green, have a short-term rental short-term rental history known to the town, and all of these have strong user ratings. The remaining 5 locations have no known rental history, mostly due to being newly constructed dwellings. Not true for all. The third criteria column reflects the nature of neighbor comments received within the comment period, which ended yesterday at 8 a.m. Comments were received in relation to 6 of the 11 properties. 3 of the applications, 541 Abbs Road, 553 Wildwood, and the units at 586 and 588 North Fletcher received supportive comments from neighbors. 4 properties, including 558 North Fletcher, the 3 applications at 524 South Fletcher, and the application at 338 Cochrane, and 1 for 586 North Fletcher received comments from neighbors in opposition to the applications. The number of comments received is reflected in the table, but not directly in the evaluation. As the evaluation addresses the nature of comments rather than the number of comments received. Applications with no comments are given a positive score, as this is understood to reflect a lack of opposition from neighbors in response to the letters. Finally, the 4th criteria is the history of complaints about past short-term rental use at the property. And to protect privacy under FOIPA, this information is withheld and will be shared with council in a closed meeting. So the points in this column shown in the report evaluate the properties in relation to one another based on the criteria evaluations. Assigned scores include 1 point for positive evaluation, 0 for neutral, and -1 point for each negative evaluation in the criteria columns. The scores shown here and in the report addendum are preliminary, as they reflect only partial information. It's suggested that the final evaluation by council include all of the available information, including bylaw complaint history and any comments received from the public in the meeting or after the comment period. So the intention is relative evaluation of the merits of each application per the policy to assist council in its decision to issue or not issue each of the temporary use permits. Sorry, I think that's a repeat. And the second to last column provides notes about the properties from the information shared with council previously, and some additional notes from the applications that are not reflected in the policy criteria. This also provides a space for council to flag any criteria which it wishes to consider in the scoring system. The last column is a space for a final evaluation score. So there are 5 attachments with the report and 6 addenda with updated information. To update information with neighbor comments. So this list summarizes that the information package included with the report in the agenda includes staff's evaluation framework updated with neighbor comments up to the close of the comment period yesterday morning. Number 2 is compiled neighbor comments redacted for privacy. The first comments attached to the report which are attached to the report are those received up to the time of writing. Those in addendum 1 are additional comments received to the close of the comment period on March 27th, and those are included in the table. And the further comments attached to the agenda individually are late comments received that are not reflected in the evaluation provided by staff. Number 3, a draft permit is enclosed in the report as attachment C, and it includes an expiry date of December 31st, 2024, as per direction received from council in December of 2022. Finally, copies of the newspaper notifications and letters sent to neighbors are enclosed in attachments D and E. So staff's recommendations, thank you, are on page 1 of the report, including a list of TUP applications to be either issued or denied based on council's consideration of the information provided in the report, and comments received up to the comment period and in person. Any permits that are not issued will be not eligible for a business license for RGA use. And council can provide a resolution to deny any of the applications optionally. Alternatively, council may alter terms or attach additional conditions to any of the permits under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? The report? I believe we've all had time to read it. So our next item, as the report mentioned, there are parts of the criteria that we need to consider enclosed in camera. We do have other items as well, which includes personal information. So this is 91A and F of the community charter, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality, or other person or other position appointed by the municipality. Law enforcement, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the conduct of an investigation under or enforcement of an enactment. So that's the recommendation that we'd be closing under those sections of the community charter. Moved by Councillor Kroll. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Lumley. All those in favor? That's the motion to close. So we're closed, and we will be after this we will be recessing, correct, until 7 p.m.